ॐ योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. On Friday, we took a long time to discuss Yama and Niyama and their results, how far they can take us. And there was a question. I replied it on chat, but I repeat. Somebody says, if we are not following Yama and Niyam so diligently, shall we not meditate? My reply is, if you are following Patanjali and if you are not following his steps prescribed by him, you may meditate to your heart's content, but you will not get the results which he has shown. So if you want to get the results, you have to proceed by these steps. So now, after having discussed Yama and Niyama at quite a length, I now come to asana, and that is in the Sutra 46. Sthira Sukham Asanam. Sthira means firm, Sukham means pleasant or easy, Asana means posture. So the meaning of the sutra is that it is defining asanam. Posture is that which is firm and pleasant. Nothing more than that. So let me repeat here that the Hatha Yoga's 84 asanas are meaningless from Patanjali Yoga point of view. And that day I suggested 3-4 asanas. You may find yourself. Sitting cross-legged is the most popular asana. Now there is a Padmasana, which becomes difficult in the beginning. But when you can sit like that, you can sit for a very long time without getting disturbed. And I told you about Siddhasana and Virasana. I don't know more than this. So any asana which steadily you can use for a long time. That is the main purpose of asana. We have to meditate, we have to concentrate, and for that, and Patanjali has already told us that it requires a long practice. So for long practice, we should be able to sit in the same posture for a long time. If we move our body, if we change our posture, we cannot meditate. So I repeat, in the Hatha Yoga, lot of asanas are given, and in the end we are asked to meditate for 5 minutes. That meditation is only to get relaxed from the tension produced by the asana. It is not meditation in the Patanjali sense. So, because our purpose is to meditate, unless we have practiced as much as we can, I repeat, the general and special rules given by Yama and Niyama, no use sitting and meditating. So, orient yourself first. These are steps which come one after the other. And we do not give up one when we go to the other. Yama and Niyama continue. But in that state of the mind where you have morally, mentally trained yourself, sit in a steady posture which you can use for long meditation. Now, how to attain that steadiness of the posture? Patanjali has given beautiful instruction. See, though the posture is physical, but the upaya he gives is mental. In the 47th Sutra, Prayatna Shaithalya Ananta Samapatibhyam. What is Prayatna Shaithalya? Relax. The more you relax, the more steadily you will sit. Because in our body, normally, hundreds of motions are going on due to the restlessness of the mind. We want to jump, we want to move, and if you add tension to that, then you cannot sit quietly. Asana should not be such that it produces a tension. So, prayatna, shaithilya, relax. Prayatna means effort, shaithilya means loosening. Loosening the effort is the way to gain steadiness in the posture. And then another mental exercise is given, Ananta Samapatti. Samapatti here means thinking, concentrating of something infinite. No, infinite is Atman, infinite is God. But we are not supposed to do that for making asana steady. If one can, it is the reverse process. If one can meditate nicely, one forgets one is sitting or what is doing. But here, something which is symbolic of infinity, we see the space in front of us, infinite, no limits. If we can just think of space infinite, our asana becomes firm. If we think of ocean like infinity, our asana becomes firm. Sri Ramakrishna says, those who have not visited the Himalayas or the ocean, it is very difficult for them to conceive infinity. So the Himalayan-like mountains are another symbols of infinity. Just think of Himalayas and you will feel the asana has become firm. So to make the asana firm, Patanjali has suggested two things. Give up your tensions. Give up the tension of the asana also. And if you relax, you will be able to sit properly. And if you can concentrate or think a little, think as much as you can of the infinity. We are going to concentrate in dhyana later on. But just to make the asana firm, if you give a little thought to infinity, like Himalayas, like the ocean, like the space, like anything which you can conceive, endless or infinite. Patanjali has not given names. He has just said something which you feel to be infinite, if you can think of, you will feel the asana has become steady. Now, what does this help us? A steady asana, how does it help us? What does it do? That it tells in Sutra 48. Tato dvanda anabhigata. See, this world is full of pairs of opposites. The nature of the world is that heat is there, cold is there, soft is there, hard is there, hot is there, cold is there. And people may praise or blame. All these are also dvanda. Now, at that point, nobody is praising or blaming us. But mentally, if you are disturbed by the thought of somebody has praised me, somebody has blamed me, asana cannot remain firm. But if you keep the asana firm, you will not be troubled by these duels of life, especially the heat and cold. So, that is the purpose of sitting in a steady asana. Otherwise, continuously you will feel heat, you will feel cold. In the colder country, you will feel hot in the hotter country, or time to time, these feelings always come. But if you make the seat firm by thinking of the infinity or otherwise, you will not feel disturbed by heat or cold or such duels. Then comes the Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, the fourth step. Now, how he describes Pranayama? I told you, pranayama, control of the prana energy, but through the most obvious science of prana, which is our breathing. So Patanjali says, Tasmin Sati. See very clearly, I say step by step. Tasmin Sati, that means asana having been achieved. Tasmin Sati means that existing. This is the condition. That means steady asana. Shwasa Prashwasa, your Shwasa is here inhaling, Prashwasa is exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling is going on, Gati. They have their own motions. Vicheda. Breaking that is the start of pranayama. When you are breathing out, if you breathe out little longer, you are breaking the incoming breath. If you are breathing in, if you breathe in little longer, you are breaking, you are being thrown out, the breath being thrown out. If you are stopping the breathing, inside or outside, then you are breaking the motion of both inhaling and outhailing breath. And in this way, if you can read the chapter on prana and psychological prana, control of prana in Swamiji's Raja Yoga, you will find one example Swamiji has given. He says a king had become displeased with his minister and he put that minister in jail in a structure, on a very high pole, pillar. There is a room and he has put the minister there. Now his wife comes and asks from below, how can I help you? He asks the wife, bring one beetle, the honeybee, and put some honey on its nose and attach a silken thread to its leg and put it on the wall. So smelling that honey, it will go on climbing and climbing and climbing. And when it reaches the place where the minister was there, he caught it. Now silken thread has gone. The other end of the silken thread, he asked his wife to tie a stout thread, twine. She tied that twine, the minister pulled it, so the twine went. The other end of the twine, she was asked to tie with a rope. Middling rope, you may say, heavier rope. And so, slowly the minister caught hold of the heaviest rope, tied it to the window and climbed down safely. So, pranayama breaking or controlling will enable us to reach the mental movements. And in this way, slowly, we will to control the flow of energy throughout our body. I told you in one of my talks that Patanjali has described pranayama briefly, but people have built up a big science on that. Now we are not concerned with that, but we are concerned that through the control of the breath, through the breaking of the natural movement of the breath, we are able to get control on our breathing, and through that we are slowly reaching inside the mind so that we will be able to meditate properly. We are able to perceive all the nervous motions, the sensory motor nerves motion, the something going on in our mind. So slowly this pranayama helps us to go forward. But we are never to overdo this. Overdoing pranayama will lead us astray, will run after the different powers which pranayama gives us. So Patanjali has mentioned it as a step So that we take the next step. Then there are how many types of pranayama there, and how pranayama are categorized. Bahya, Abhyantara, Stambha Vritti, Desha, Kala, Sankhya Paridrishto, Dirgha, Sukshma. Here the verb is Paridrishto. Pranayama is seen as. Paridrishto means pranayama is seen as. Dirgha, long. Sukshma, subtle. How? Bahya Vritti. That means if you go on releasing air through your nose, you are breaking the motion of the incoming breath. Technically, it is called rechaka, exhaling. No, exhaling itself is a type of pranayama, long exhaling, which breaks the motion of your incoming breath. For how long, for how much, that is told in the next part of the sutra. But here, exhaling is a type of pranayama. Abhyantara, you are drawing the breath inside. When you are drawing the breath inside, you are breaking the motion of the outgoing breath. Now, when you break the incoming breath, it hits the different parts of your body. When you break the outgoing breath, then it hits the different parts of your body. So that you are able to get some more power, some more energy to do your further sadhana. Stambha Vritti. Stambha means stopping both the exhaling and inhaling. Exhaling is called Rechaka, I told you. Inhaling is called Puraka. And the stopping both is called Kumbhaka. Now, Kumbhaka again is of two types. So, in the previous chapter, he had given the external Kumbhaka, the easiest one. That means you have emptied yourself as much as you could by throwing the breath out, and then do not breathe in immediately. Stop it outside. So, this is breaking the motion of both incoming and outgoing breathing by stopping the breathing when it has been thrown outside. Some people call it as Bahya Kumbhaka. Then the usual Kumbhaka, Antak Kumbhaka, is that you have breathe in as much as you can, and then you stop it there. You stop the breath inside. That produces a lot of energy, and that is called the Antak Kumbhaka, stopping the breath. Now here you are stopping both the outgoing and ingoing, but you are stopping after you are drawn in. So that is the Kumbhaka Stambha Vritti. It is said Stambha Vritti. I may remind you here, now and then we are talking of Vedanta and Bhakti also. Sri Ramakrishna has said that by Bhakti, Kumbhaka comes automatically without your physically trying for it. If you are devoted to God, if the current of love is there towards God, Kumbhaka comes automatically. Now it is a part of what Patanjali has said, Ishvara Pranidhanat Samadhi Siddhi. But if you are properly feel love for God, you need not bother about Kumbhaka. Otherwise, in Patanjali's method, it is from physical to mental you are going. And so, physically, stopping the breath is Kumbhaka. Now, Vritti means the Vritti, you know, is a mental wave here. Bahya Vritti, that means in the process of being thrown outside, that is Bahya Vritti. In the process of breathing being thrown outside, you are stopping the incoming breath. Abhyantara, this vritti is common to all. Abhyantara vritti means in the process of breathing in, you are stopping the breathing out. And stambha vritti, stopping the breathing, both inhaling and inhaling, either inside or outside, you are stopping in this process, you are stopping both breathing in and out. Now, Desha, Kala, Sankhya bhi, because of these three, Tritiya, cause, Desha means space, Desha means some particular spot. Now, if you are doing pranayama properly, you can feel the prana energy, and where it is there, it is not only in my nose, it is somewhere towards my lungs. It is inside the lungs. This is only breathing. Prana can be felt throughout the body. Now, if you hold the prana there for some time, it is called desha. Holding the breath, or if possible the prana energy in a particular spot of the body, is one way of categorizing pranayama. Kala. Kala means how long you are holding the breath. So that is another way of categorizing prana. How long you are exhaling, how long you are inhaling, how long are you holding the breath outside or inside. This is called categorization by time. Sankhya bhi. Sankhya means counting of how many times you are doing that. It is different from Kala, not same. Kala is about one pranayama, how long you are doing it. And Sankhya means in one sitting, whether you have done thrice, inhaling and stopping, or 6 times, or 12 times, or 10 times. So, this is another way of categorizing pranayama is Sankhya bhi. Paridrishto, that means is seen, categorized as Dirgha or Sukshma. So, Dirgha includes how long, how many times. So, we'll say he is doing a Dirgha pranayam. Now, Sukshma pranayam is not opposite to Dirgha. Sukshma means how slow, how subtle becomes the breathing. By controlling the breathing slowly, you will find that you will very slowly be able to eject your breath. Very slowly you will be able to take breath in. So that is another way of categorizing Sukshma. So category of Dirgha and Sukshma, etc. you may add, come by Desha, Kala and Sankhya. So, Bahya, Abhyantara and Stambha, there are 3 types of pranayama. Becomes 4 types if you take that Antak Kumbhak and Baish Kumbhak, and which can easily come by bhakti without physical effort, and holding at a spot, holding for how much time and how many times you are doing. These are the different categorization of pranayama into long and subtle. Now, there is a 4th type of pranayama. That means, what I counted as 4, Patanjali has taken as 3, Rechaka, Puraka and Kumbhaka. Whether it is Antak Kumbhak or Baish Kumbhak, he has taken it as 1. But there is a 4th. Bahya Bhyantara Vishaya Kshepi Chaturtha. Vishaya Kshepi. Bahya Bhyantara. There is some external object. And while you are doing pranayama, your mind is riveted on some external object. That gives a force to pranayama. So 4th pranayama is on any of these types, especially the Kumbhak type. When you are doing Kumbhak, you are holding your mind. Prana you are holding inside, but mind you are holding to a sort of start of meditation or process. It is not yet meditation or concentration. While doing pranayama, you hold some external object in the mind. Or if you can hold some object inside yourself, it is still another type. It is one of the types. Fourth type is that you hold your mind to a spot inside or outside the body. Bhaya abhyantara vishaya kshepi. Vishaya is an object. Kshepi means being holding to that. Chaturtha. This is the fourth type. So Patanjali has given 4 types of pranayama. In our counting, it has become 5. The Swamiji's translation is the fourth is restraining the prana by reflecting on external and internal object. In this, Thakur's bhakti becomes included. By, he says, by. That means, while restraining, you put your mind outside or inside is not true. But by putting your mind to a spot, pranayama is coming. By putting your mind inside somewhere, breath is being checked, kumbhaka is happening. So the fourth is that which you do, especially kumbhaka, by holding the mind to some external and internal object. So these steps are sometimes mutually overlapping, not totally exclusive, not inclusive, but overlapping. So mentally, if your mind is strong already, relatively, and if you think of some object inside or outside, your pranayama happens naturally, without physical effort. I told you, the end is not breathing. In the minister's story, I told you. So, Tata Khiyate Prakasha Varanam, 52. Now, Prakasha is light. Prakasha is the self-luminous Atman. Prakasha is not physical light here. Prakasha is the light of consciousness, of the self-conscious Atman. We do not see it today. We are not aware of it. It is covered totally by our avidya, asmita, raga, dvesh, avinivesh. Our self-conscious Atman has been hidden, covered. Now this pranayama is slowly releasing layer after layer of this avidya, asmita, raga, dvesh, avinivesh, and our self is coming more into the picture. We are not going up to that straight, huh? That will take all the 8 steps. But to some extent, the avarana of Prakash, the covering of the self-luminous Atman, is becoming less and less, you may say, is being lessened by this pranayama. So all the steps are calculated to reveal the self-conscious Atman. So pranayama is a 4th step, and it helps us to remove some of the coverings. Khiyate becomes less power. So khiyate does not remove it, but attenuated, becomes weak, becomes khina. Then another thing happens by pranayama. Actually, dharana will be told after pratyahara. But pranayama enables you to do dharana. Dharana sucha yogyata manasa. Here one beautiful point is coming in between the lines. That we are yet to go through pratyahara. But I told you, in Vedanta or in Bhakti, first we have to hold on to some concept. Here in Rajoga it may be holding on to some spot. Now I have seen that holding on to some spot itself will make pranayama. But if we are successful in practice of pranayama, then our mind becomes fit for dharana. That means He has skipped the step of pratyahara here. So as I told you, though there are steps one after the other, there is a lot of overlapping, loop, jumping one step. So pranayama rightly done will make us, enable us to do dharana, but we have to practice pratyahara first according to Patanjali. So the mind has become fit for dharana, but we may say not fully fit. So pranayama has helped us to make the mind fit for dharana. Now comes pratyahara. Svavishaya asamprayoge chitta swarupanukara iva indriyanam pratyahara. You remember, we found the meaning of all this during the counting of the 8 steps. So there itself, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, we had taken the meaning. But here, Patanjali is describing in greater details. Svavishaya asamprayoge indriyanam. Pratyahara is about the organs of perception or action. Now, normally, the organs have a tendency to go to their objects, that is, they are meant for. But we do not allow them to go, or we withdraw them. Asamprayoge. Samprayog means going towards. And asamprayoge means not allowing them to go towards their own, different. The Shravanendriya goes towards sound, the eye organ goes towards forms or beauty, the skin goes towards touch, the tongue goes towards taste, the nose goes towards smell. Similarly, Panchakarmendriyas. Now, if you have done pranayama, if you have done first of all, train yourself in yama and niyama, and you have found a steady posture in which you have practiced pranayama a little, and then you will find you are able to now perceive the tendencies of the indriyas. Without telling you, they go to the objects normally. We do not know when our indriyas are on to some objects. But that is the beauty, why these steps have to be taken. Because the earlier we can catch, the better we can control. My teacher used to tell, nip in the bud before it becomes a flower or fruit. So, yama, niyama, asana and pranayam have helped us to perceive things before they happen or when they are about to happen. So when you know, oh, eye wants to see something, ear wants to hear something, let me not do that. Why? Because I want to concentrate on an object of my choice, on an object which will take me to the Atman, ultimately to the exclusion of other objects, to a spot particular. So to be able to concentrate on some spot particular, we have to withdraw it from running here and there, which our organs are continuously doing without telling us. They pull us behind them. So instead of being pulled behind them, we have to pull them behind us. We have to pull them inside. That is pratyahara. So Patanjali rightly says, when they are not running here and there, you can concentrate, because the Patanjali's method is concentrating on a spot. So for that, though pranayama has made us ready, withdrawal of the organs is essential. So Vishaya Asamprayoge Chitta Swarupanukara Iva. What has happened to the eye organ, ear organ? It has become part of the mind. If the, let us understand the metaphysics a little, each organ is made of one particular subtle elements. Mind is made of the mixture of all elements. So the nose is made of that particular Gandha element. Now, we are not allowing it to go to the object. So what it will do? It comes back to the mind. It joins the mixture which is called the mind. So, Eva means as if Chitta Swarupa Anukara. The Chitta, the mind stuff, has a form. And the Indriya takes a corresponding form, Anukara. Swarupa means form, Anukara means a corresponding form, a form corresponding the form of the mind, Eva, Indriyana. So Indriyas, when withdrawn from their objects, as if they take the form of the mind, which is their origin, from the mind the Indriya has come out. If the Indriya does not go further out, it comes back and becomes merged or temporarily. At least it appears as if it is now in the mind itself. This is pratyahara. Then all your energy you can focus and put on the spot. So pratyahara, why it is essential before dharana, is that when you withdraw all the organs, sensory, motor, then you can use them on a particular spot. Now, let me tell you a story, a real anecdote, my experience. We know something is called Shiva Linga, and it is such a greatly misunderstood thing, especially in North India, not in South. What is the meaning of Linga? Linga means symbol or a sign that it is Shiva. Now, what is the sign of Shiva? Let us go through that story. For saving humanity, you know, the Devas and Asuras wanted nectar from the ocean. So they churned the ocean together. But before nectar came out, hala poison came out. Such a dangerous thing came out. Even if you throw it back into the ocean, it will be poison. Because from all parts of the ocean it came out. And if anybody smells, tastes, even a drop, he will die. So without getting Amrita, all the life of Devas and Asuras came into a risk. Who saved them? Shiva. Shiva drank that halal, the wholesale. Now what it will do? Before killing a person, the poison produces too much heat. It started burning in his body. Now he went to a place where there was a waterfall. So he cooled his head a little and sat in meditation. He wanted in dhyana and samadhi to separate his mind from the body, then the body effect will not go further. Now, we see that when we meditate, organs are subtle. Organs come back to mind. Now, Shiva is the great deity. In his case, even the places where the organs function, our hands, our feet, our eyes, our nose, they went inside his body, mind you. Now, because he is sitting, so the dimensions are different, length and breadth is different. And you will find where throat could be, there the blue color, that means the poison has reached up to that point. We call him Nilkantha. And all his organs, Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, have entered his body. This is the meaning of Shiva Linga, please. It has no other meaning, I'll tell you. Linga means sign of Shiva. And what is the sign of Shiva? Great God in Samadhi. Great God, after drinking halahala to save mankind, gods and asuras, he knows only one method, to sit in Samadhi, to withdraw all the organs inside, not only pratyahara, but proceed towards dharana, dhyan, samadhi, proceed towards separating the mind from the body, proceed to separate the Atman from both mind and body, if you may like, and in that process, the organs have become withdrawn to such an extent that the places where the organs work, our eyes, nose, hands, legs, they are not organs, they are the seats of the organs. But we may able to withdraw the organs to some extent. But Shiva, being the great God, he withdrew even the places where the organs were, and all of them entered his body. The difference is only in the length and breadth, and a little blackness or blueness about the place where throat could be. And that is why this Ratne Kalpitam Asanam Himajala Snanam, Shiva likes to be bathed or cold or ice water being put on his head because he wants to sit in Samadhi. So, this is the meaning of Shivalinga, though it is a little side issue, but it is not a side issue. The demonstration, what will Pratyahara do? To what length Pratyahara can go? To demonstrate that, I have told you the story of Shiva, which also tells us that attaching any other meaning to this Shivalinga is nonsense. Shiva Linga means the Chinna by which Shiva is known. He is known by his deep Samadhi, in which all the organs have gone in. So that is real Pratyahara. In our case, Eva, as if the organs have entered the mind, as if the organs have taken the same form as the mind. In Shiva's place, the organs have gone into the mind. The places where organs work, they are also gone into the mind. Now, what happens by this Pratyahara? Tata parama vashyate indriyanam. All the indriyas have become totally under our control. That is Pratyahara. So the 8 steps are meant, we are trying to concentrate somewhere and some indriya is running somewhere. How can we concentrate? And that is why after the first or second class, I was bombarded with a question that children are losing attentivity, no attention. It is actually not no attention, attention towards too many objects together. So no attention to a particular object because their attention has become scattered, gone through hundreds of objects together. Now in contrast we see, if Pratyahara we do, all the organs have come totally under our control. Now if, let me take the name, what harm is there? If America tells us don't control, the result is non-attention. This is the just opposite of that. By Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam and Pratyahara, we have withdrawn all our, it is not for permanent withdrawal. To enable us to pay attention, so much concentration we have to do that it becomes penetrative. Simply by concentrating on a spot, we want to go inside that spot and pursue the subtle elements and go inside and perceive our own mind and perceive our own eye consciousness. So much penetration is required, and for that our mind should not run. It is not an ordinary concentration, mind you. Patanjali's Samadhi or dharana dhyan samadhi is a penetrative concentration which reveals knowledge, Ritambhara Satya Prajna. That means we will be able to see that Atman is separate from Prakriti. So much penetrative it becomes. For that we require a jumping board. And that jumping board is this Pratyahara. Now our organs will not go here and there. While we are concentrating, suppose even a fly or a mosquito bites us, we will not feel it. Dvanda anabhigata, we have been told. Dvanda anabhigata should include pain and pleasure also, not only heat and cold. We will not able to feel. And so much control when we gain. Then we will go to third chapter telling us about dharana. So, let us proceed now. Time is in our hand and we have slowly but surely, at least in understanding, captured the 5 steps given by Patanjali. And we go to the third chapter. Now what is happening in Patanjali Sutras? Today I have prepared a write-up. I thought Wednesday will be the chance, but today itself the chance has come. I will send it by email to all those whom I know, and I will send it to the organizers by email, and they will put it as a link, so all of you can see that. What is that about? Connection. Patanjali Sutras. We saw sometimes we go forward, sometimes we came backward. So what is the connection of the Patanjali Sutras with each other, including the sutras which we are going to read now, including sutras on dharana, dhyana and samadhi, starting from Sampragyata, steps of Sampragyata. I will not talk more about it now. I will show it in the write-up. Now we go to the chapter 3rd, Desha Bandhas Chittasya Dharana. Desha means a spot. A spot, Patanjali does not describe where. So it means inside or outside, wherever you like. Maybe a spot on the wall, maybe a spot on our table. And I gave you the illustration of the eye of the bird being put on a distant tree. We should not be able to see the tree. We will not become blind. We should not be able to see the bird. We will not become blind. We are seeing only the eye of the bird. That is called fixing on a spot. Fixing on a spot to the exclusion of everything else is called dharana by Patanjali. Now, remember how much advanced we have to be able to do that. Should we not go through orientation by Yama and Niyama? Should we not find our steady posture? Should we not be penetratively inside by pranayama? Should we not totally withdraw ourselves by pratyahara in able to order to make us enable to fix the whole mind on a particular spot to the exclusion of everything else? That is dharana according to Patanjali. Then I think it is enough for today, because the meaning of dharana in Vedanta or in our common parlance is totally different. Literal meaning of dharana is to hold. Now we hold so many ideas in the mind. So I told you, Vedanta concept of God is called dharana. Conceptual knowledge is called dharana. After that intensification, through dhyana, we shall reach the full knowledge in samadhi. So, and one day I described that dharana in Bhakti Shastra or Vedanta contains three factors. It contains knowledge of the nature of Atman or God. It contains which form of God which we like. Even if we like God without form, that is a form. Then immediately there is a relationship with God, not necessarily physical relationship like father, mother, son and all that. Relations can be so many types. In the 9th chapter of the Gita, Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi, Nivasa Sharanam Surat, Prabha Pralaya Sthanam Nidhanam Bijam Avayam. Vedantins hold what dear? He is my being. He is my Atman. This is the relation. And because of this relation, I am attracted towards him. I am pulled by him. Now him, if you do not like the word God, let it be Atman, my reality. What is my relation to my reality? I am a shadow of that reality. And here I tell you, the whole of spiritual life is contained in one beautiful English word. Write down those who feel like. Self-centripetence. Self-centripetence. Centripetence means being pulled towards the center. Atman pulling its own shadow. Atman pulling its own reflection towards its center. That is spiritual life. Spirit means Atman. Spiritual means basing upon Atman or towards Atman. So, self-centripetence. Now, dharana, if we are conceiving reality, it pulls us. It pulls our heart. Shall I give you a physical story about it? A beautiful story is there. Let me tell it today. There was a woman. Her original name was Mridani. At the age of 13, when they wanted to marry her, she escaped with the help of somebody, but through the back door on the day of the marriage or the previous day. And she became dressed like a male sannyasi, traveled throughout India. In many places in India, we find places. Her name became Gauri Puri and Sannyasini. And we get many places. Gauri Puri did tapasya here, Gauri Puri did tapasya there. Now, she came back and settled in Puri, Jagannath Puri. Sri Ramakrishna's great devotee, Balram Basu, was in Puri and he found her. And he appealed to her, he requested her and brought her to his house in Calcutta. Now day and night he is telling her, come with me to Sri Ramakrishna. She says, I have seen so many sadhus in my life. No desire is left in me to go to a sadhu. But if your sadhu is a real person, he will pull me. That is what she said. Now, one day while doing puja or meditation, she went into a super conscious mood, bhav. And there she found, as if, but real, some strings have been attached to her heart. And somebody is pulling at that string. So by her hand she started making some motion as if being pulled in the state of bhava. Balram Babu thought this is the best moment. And she said, sister, come with me to Sri Ramakrishna. and in a horse carriage he brought her to Sri Ramakrishna. Now, when they were about to enter his room, what was Sri Ramakrishna doing? You know, when the children play at kite, they have a big reel, and on that there is a string. And when the play of the kite is over, they wind it back on the reel. And Sri Ramakrishna was having a reel in his hand physically, and he was winding the thread back into the reel. And then she visualized, she experienced directly. It is he who was pulling her. No, she was in Bagbazar in Calcutta, and Sri Ramakrishna was in Dakshineshwar, quite a few miles away. And yet, in the spiritual field, I am not talking of some miracles, but this is what she experienced. I am talking of this only because the dharana should make us feel being pulled by God. And for that, I am giving you a concrete physical example. In the life of Sri Ramakrishna, you will find all these subtle things have become physical. All these things have become demonstrated. So, she found being pulled by the great sadhu, Paramahansa, Sri Ramakrishna. So, this is what should happen to all of us. Need not be such physical, but we should feel pulled by God inside, pulled towards the Atman. That is the real meaning of dharana. In spite of that, some old sanskaras of enjoyment here and there makes the mind disturbed. At that point only we use our will. Otherwise we are feeling using knowledge and devotion to meditate. In spite of that, when the mind runs here and there, has a tendency to run here and there, we have to bring it back by our will and we meditate. So, dharana results into deep concentration and meditation. For that, I gave you two stories today. Shiva story and Gauri story. Om yogena chittasya padena vacha malam sharirasya vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjayanatosmi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hare Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.